we make a decision in relationship with other people. Why? Because if anything comes my way that brings what I call negative circumstances in my life, I can blame it on the devil. I don't have to take responsibility for something that I did that's being reciprocated to me. You see? But so religion actually puts it in invisible, teaching an invisible page that is much stronger than the page of like what it is.
It's very similar to that the page of enslavement when I was become a slave.
Right.
It doesn't matter if I'm literally free and my
and
mind is still enslaved. That's a whole different thing.
my and my whole understanding that
I can hear him down.
is that I don't I don't prescribe. Well, let me back up. When I talk about being stress-free 95% of the time, the other 5% I'm getting rid of stress. That's pretty much what I'm saying. That I take responsibility for everything that comes my way. If something comes my way that appears to be negative, the first question that comes to me is, what can I learn from this? What can I do to be strengthened by it, as opposed to trying to run from it, or as opposed to trying to find someone to help me get through it. If I come to you to help me get through it, it's because I have traveled as far as I can in going through it. If you tell me to pray and that's going to get me through it, and I pray and it doesn't happen, consciously I can believe anything I want to, but subconsciously I'm saying to myself, this doesn't work, because it hasn't worked. Now, when I look at the reality of what we deal with day to day, and I think about the reality that Jesus dealt with day to day, I see the exact same thing. We look at the we talk about Jesus being an example, but we don't look at the example that he left. The only examples we look at that he left are those that physically open blind eyes, that physically cause the lame to walk. Physical. We don't look at the example that he left when he dealt with the issues of that day. The issues of that day was that the Roman government was the oppressor, but he did not lead a demonstration against the oppressor. Neither did he make any attempts to become a part of that government. What he did, he showed us how to change that government and become to submit all of our authority to the government of the spiritual realm, as opposed to the government of the land. Now keep in mind that the same oppressor that Jesus contended with when he walked on earth is the same oppressor that Muhammad dealt with when he walked on earth. It's the same oppressor that Frederick Douglass dealt with when he was on earth. It's the same oppressor that we deal with now. Right now. What am I saying to you? It's not a race of people, it is a concept that those people carry. And until we deal with that concept in a manner that is true to the nature of how we were created, it will never change. Now, I'm sitting here saying all of this, and I just was talking to someone, and my last words to them before I came in here was, you know what, I have these ideas about my body being tired, but my body is not tired. My soul is tired. My soul is exhausted. And what brought me to that understanding is I actually made my mind stand still to feel my body. And they said to me, are you still there? And that's when I said what I did about my soul being tired. When I felt my body is not tired. It's my soul. And my body feels heavy because of the burden that my soul is carrying. And that's what I'm experiencing at this moment. And I find it extremely difficult to hold true to what I know the truth to be, because it appears as though that darkness is always winning. And I mean darkness in the most debased sense of it. It's like this whole system is a black hole, and it swallows all the light that you try to produce. That's how I feel.
Okay.
And I think I know what part of the reason is because maybe I'm experiencing what other people are, the people, not just of America, but of the world, are experiencing, but also that I'm reverting, a desire to revert to my drug of choice, which is politics. I know how to handle it politically, but it doesn't. Handling things politically is a quick fix. It's a sugar high. It doesn't last, because no matter what you put out there, the powers that be has a method to move beyond it. And I'll show you what I'm saying. It doesn't matter how much the church has prayed. If prayer the way we have been taught to pray was real, then there would be no racism. There would be no racism whatsoever. Because how long have we been praying for God to deal with it? So when I talk about that, I'm looking at a system that is getting increasingly worse and more burdensome every day on the shoulders of humanity. And it has to be something of a spiritual nature, because there is no way in the world that I can believe that you can be thinking clearly, even in a human sense, and support a system that relegates you to a state of poverty that the people you actually hate don't even experience. You understand what I'm saying?
Say that another way, please.
How can poor white people support a system that relegates them to a system of a depth of poverty that people of color do not experience? How can you do that unless it is spiritual? Because if you're thinking about your experiences even in this earth, you understand that during the month of the winter, you have to choose between kerosene and putting a window in your trailer. Or you have to choose between buying your medicine or putting teeth in your mouth. I'm talking about the poverty to the extreme that is nauseating to even think about, let alone experience. And the people who are experiencing this depth of poverty are the people who hate people of color. Yet they support the system that perpetuates that. That doesn't make sense to me. So what is it that does make sense to me? What does make sense to me is that the Creator is creating and sustaining the system that we are suffering under. And when I say we are suffering under, I don't mean individually, because quite frankly, individually, I don't suffer. Suffering is a state of mind, as opposed to a state of being. Now, if you live in this earth realm, suffering becomes a state of being in terms of your environment. I don't suffer that. So it says to me that when I made the statement, when we met in December and Donald Trump was elected in November, the previous November, I made the statement that this is Robert Hayes in Reconstruction all over again, coming to the end. So I'm saying, and I said that the Creator is the one who made it possible for him to win, right? But if that is the case, then the Creator also created the system that we are suffering on. The weight of it all. The Creator brought this into existence. And the reason I say that is there are multiple reasons, but some of the reasons I say that is because this system that has been brought into effect is putting pressure on people of color. What kind of pressure is it put? It's forcing us to deal with an avenue that's going to bring balance to the earth. It's forcing us to deal with a methodology beyond the realm of our thought processes to execute a plan that will bring into this society a system that's not equitable, because nothing is equal, but a system that's beneficial. And the people who are living in abject poverty are there because the Creator put them there, and their hatred for people of color is something that the Creator put there. Because without their hatred, there is no pressure, and without that pressure, there is no wine coming from the grape. Are you with me? So my soul being exhausted is another form of pressure, and when I say that, it's difficult for me to hold on to the truth, that the things that I know to be the truth. It is different now, and the difference in it is because having taken inventory of my feelings and knowing that it's not my body that's exhausted, it's my soul, not my mind, my soul. When I take inventory and see that, now I sit in a place where I can be expressive of that, and being expressive of that, the burden is not so heavy as it was when I sat down. Why? Because the relief of the burden, the movement from an environment, a spiritual environment of suffering, the movement from the environment of abject poverty only comes when things are spoken in a way that would bring about deliverance. Now, I spoke concerning abject poverty to those who hate us, but we also live in abject poverty. Our abject poverty has nothing to do with sustenance for our bodies or shelter for our bodies. But abject poverty with us has everything to do with us living in a place where there is no food, there's no soul, no nutrition for the soul. That's the abject poverty that we experience. We are so doggone intellectual at times until we lose sight of the need for broccoli and leafy vegetables. Rather than that, we only live off the starches. And now, when we live off the starches, we don't have the energy to fight anymore. That's in the spiritual way. And those things I'm talking about are euphemisms for what we need in our souls, or what we need to nourish our soul. And it is my contention that to nourish our soul is not only to read the books of the holy books of the world, but it's also to understand the nature of them. It is also speaking of what we see in them, which actually brings the energy from them into this realm. And when we do that, it becomes food that strengthens the soul and regulates the mind. All I'm saying, all I'm trying to say is that the burden that I was experiencing is no different than the burden of other people. Also, I'm saying that when we look at abject poverty in a physical way, our eyes get stuck there when we need to close our eyes to it and see the abject poverty that's so present in the spiritual. And the system that perpetuates abject poverty in the soul is Christianity. It's Islam. Religions, Judaism, religions which were never designed to be organized religions. But the principles of all of those are principles for the balancing of the universe. Yet we have taken them, excuse me, and made them organized religion. And to me, organized religion is nothing but a nice way of talking about philosophical principles that does not make sense. That's all.
You know, it seems like the spiritual principles that they were founded on are calcified in a way. Like they're frozen and they can't bend, they can't flex, you can't experience them as something that's alive that can change your life when they become organized like that.
And then we go from one extreme to the other. I'm watching these people railing against Buttigieg, whatever his name is, the Buttigieg. The guy who,
Buttigieg?
yeah, the guy that
Cage, what?
the guy who's running against run for president from Indiana. Him.
What?
Pete, let's say Pete. It's easy to say Pete. Okay, I'm looking at them saying, pestering him with signs and words, marriage between a man and a woman. And as opposed to looking at the issues that the man is dealing with. Then I'm also listening to radio and I'm hearing about this girl who was on, I think it was soccer team anyway. They were wearing jerseys that celebrated what they call it, the day that gay people have the parade.
Pride.
The gay pride. They had great gay, and she said, I can't wear the jersey because I don't believe in that. It's against everything I believe in. So the next year, they didn't put her on the team. And I heard the discussion. And the person, one of the people who was discussing it was a person who is gay. And the person said they should have put her on the team because she is homophobic. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. What about her rights? She has the right to believe what she wants to believe. Just because I don't believe what you believe, that would be no different than asking a Jew to put on a swastika. If that's what she believes, leave her alone. Playing soccer has nothing to do with a jersey. So she was penalized for something that she believed in. Now, if you look at it from the other side, this is what was being said. But she must, she's not seeing gay people as having equal rights. That's not what she said. She said, I don't believe in that. She didn't say, I don't love gay people. She did not say that gay people should be killed. She said, I don't believe in that. How many times have you said something that you don't believe in? You told somebody, I don't believe in that. So are you to be rejected because of that? That's the calcification of religion. That's the calcification of homosexuality. That's the calcification of this society. There are no areas of balance. It is either one way or the other. And both of those are imbalances. The balance to that would have been, I believe, my opinion, is that, okay, that's fine. If you don't want to wear the jersey, the whole team must have on the same type jersey to be on the field. You can't play this game. Never been the end of it. Now, suppose one of the others said that I'm a Christian. I don't believe that Islam is the true religion. So I'm not going to wear a crescent on my jersey. You understand where I'm coming from? What's the difference? So I say all of that to say this is not the problem. These are symptoms of the problem. The problem is starvation. It's spiritual starvation. That's what the problem is. When you can see with your spiritual eye, when you are no longer spiritual hungry, but you're still hungry. What I mean by that is that you right now spiritually I am not hungry, but yet I am. And what that means is I'm going beyond what I know. I'm hungry for more. That's what I'm talking about. Now, I hunger for more. Why? Because I see all the things around me. I see the people who are perpetuators of Christianity embracing the most immoral person to ever be on the face of the earth as far as I'm concerned. I see a country that brags about being democratic, overthrow a democratic government in Venezuela. I see a nation that boasts about being democratic or overthrow a government in Palestine that was elected democratically. I see that. So what am I saying? This system is not democratic. The system is selfish. If you don't do it my way, then I cannot support you, and then the church supports that. That's the system that the church supports. That's the system that the church bred. There could never be any kind of discrimination, any kind of poverty, any kind of inequality. Well, I'm sorry, any kind of prejudice if it were not for the church. The church is responsible for everything that we call evil on this earth. If you want, if you want to deflect, if Donald Trump calls other people immoral because he's deflecting, the church calls everything evil because it's deflected. It came from evil roots, and if it came from evil roots, it has evil fruit. And the fruit that's on the tree is Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, all of that is on that tree. Islam is on that tree. Judaism is on that tree. Because all of them are the same. And all of them are for the purpose of manipulation. And if we manipulate ourselves, then we will also manipulate other people. How do we manipulate ourselves? We manipulate ourselves by embracing a cross that's a cross of death. Think about it. A cross of death. It is no coincidence that the cross is made the way it is. It came from the east. It is no coincidence that the cross is a cross and not an ankh. And the ankh is with the cross, like a cross, but the opening at the top. And I said it for benefit of those who might not know what the ankh is. And it is a symbol of life because it represents the womb that's open, the testicles and the penis at the lower parts of it. The cross represents a womb that is closed and barren. And yet it has opportunity to receive a seed, but it can't because it's closed. That's death. Yet it embraces that and expect to live. I see this because I believe that we are in a period where, not a period, we're on the edge. We are currently on the edge. On the edge of what? If we don't have to fumble the ball, if we take our eye off of it, if we fail to think about it every moment that we have in this life, we lose. Because the edge that we are on is being represented by people who don't want to, the problem that keeps us on the edge is a problem that people don't want to hear about. All they want to hear about is Jesus. But they don't want to hear about what Jesus represents. You understand? They don't want to do that. What are the issues that has us on the edge? This is not about a constitutional crisis. We created that. This is not about a democracy on the brink of falling into a dictatorship. It always has been. You just got more dictators than the other countries. You got 435 in the House and 100 in the Senate. So you got 535 plus 1 and 9 judges. Those are the dictators. You say, no, they are not. They are for justice. If that is the case, then why is it that you can tell Congress, I ain't coming? And don't go. And nothing happens. So this is the dictatorship.
You who?
William Barr?
William Barr, I'm not coming. How is it that you can tell the Congress, I'm not going to give you the reports, even though they are public information, they're governmental? Why? Because I'm not coming. How is it that you can hold a judgeship open for a year and then put who you want in there? That's dictatorship. Simply because, look at the pastor. Pastor ain't no different than a Catholic priest. He just doesn't have the little booth, the confessional. He doesn't have the confessional. His is bigger than the priest. His is his office. And you get the same thing. You go in, you talk, and you hear it the next Sunday. Nothing changes in your life. So no one is exposing the issues that keeps us on the edge. We are not about to fall into a dictatorship. We are not about to become a democracy. We are not about to become a republic. We are on the edge of extinction. That's what we are. Look at the Neanderthal. Look at the Cro-Magnon. This type of man was allowed to go into extinction because it did not balance with its Savior, with its deliverer, with its Creator. We are on the verge of extinction. We think we are not, simply because we got a car and a house and a job. They had transportation, they had a house, might have been a cave, whatever it was, they had a job, hunting. But they don't. So how are we think that we are okay, but we are doing the same thing they did. They destroyed themselves by not bringing balance, and we are destroying ourselves by not bringing balance. When you talk about the fossil fuel thing, that's simply an imbalance. When you talk about contamination, the pollutants that's in the air, that's an imbalance in the atmosphere, is it not? It's speaking of imbalance, but we don't see that. Only thing we see is that, well, the world won't be like it is in a few years. We're going to lose the ability to have enough crop to feed the world. We're getting to a place now where the air is not going to be fresh to breathe. If that's not on the verge of extinction, what is? So what are you saying, James? If the dictatorial attitude of this nation prevails, there will be zero regulations for anything in this country, which means that zero regulation for anything in this world. And with those zero regulations comes what? Extinction. Because everything will be poison. Right now, you can't eat a strawberry without being poisoned. You cannot wash a strawberry and think it's okay to eat because of the pores, the pesticides inside of it. You can't wash an apple that's been waxed. It's poisonous. You can't wash that. All of these things that I'm referencing are things that causes brain fog. And suppose this is also what causes dementia or Alzheimer's. All of these pollutants. Now, there are those who probably listen or may listen later on who will say, he didn't talk about the Bible, he's talking about politics. Quite frankly, I don't give a rat's butt about what you think. What I care about is what I know. And what I know is that Jesus dealt with the same thing. However, when you separate that, the only place that politics and religion is separated is in the black church. Challenge that. Anyone, I want you to challenge that. It's the only place is in the black church.
That it is separated?
That is separated is in the black church. And the black church don't think it's separated. Black folk ain't political.
Let me challenge that.
if politics was prevalent in the black church, then why is it that black folk don't vote?
Black folk vote around certain issues.
No, black folk don't vote issues. Because if black folk voted issues, they'll never vote for a Democrat or a Republican. We vote emotion. Obama, the largest voter turnout in the history of this nation was when Obama ran the first time. We vote emotion.
You know, it's interesting to hear you talk about this. And also, I want to say thank you for sharing what you were actually feeling initially, because I think it takes a lot of. No, I was saying I think it takes a lot of courage to say what you actually feel. Interestingly enough, I was watching this video the other day about Cambridge Analytica, and I was really curious about the technology that they were using. And essentially, the guy who runs the organization, I forget the guy's name, but let me back up. What is Cambridge Analytica? So Cambridge Analytica is it's a PR data type company, and they use their technology to influence elections around the world. And so in this recent election here in the U.S., one of the things that they did was the guy who was in charge of this whole thing was wondering how can he influence people's minds more. So he found this professor in Cambridge who had created some kind of survey, and he was giving people this survey on Facebook. It was very just simple survey, just about your personality. It's a personality survey.
And he paid money too.
Well, hang on. So this, yeah, and he did pay people like $3, $5 to pay to get answers, about their personality. It was a very benign thing, but this guy at Cambridge Analytica found out about this guy who had taken this survey, these 50,000 people, and then he took that survey, that data from all of those surveys about people's personalities, and then they basically used that data to begin to promote advertisements to those individuals. And not only those individuals, but also their friends. So they created this digital campaign that essentially latched on to people's greatest fears and their greatest pains, and they just marketed all of it. And in this documentary that I was watching, one of the things that he was saying was, if you want to control people, you have to control the culture. And if you could, and the way to control the culture is to control people's minds and how they're thinking. And so no matter where they go, there are all these messages, right? So there's like this kind of, I don't know, no matter where you look, it's all the same message.
But it speaks to the people of that particular culture.
Right.
How's that unlike what happens with insurance companies who've done this for years, or with the around Thanksgiving you start hearing the Christmas, programmable stuff, the
Sure.
Christmas music that puts you in puts certain people into a certain.
It's a certain trend, yeah.
So, see, this is the thing. All they did was do a worldwide.
Yes.
At one time.
At once, yeah.
This has always happened.
Yes.
That's why we Christians as enslaved people. Because the culture was destroyed. And we were given something that mimics culture. Religion called Christianity. Now, everywhere we go, we indoctrinate others with what we believe. We don't really believe it, but what they say, what we say we believe. Because there is no one that I know of who truly believes in Christianity. We think we do. We believe in what we've been told it is. So this has been going on for years. So what did Cambridge Analytica do? Cambridge Analytica took a sample. And all men have the same propensities. The question is what you have an affinity for. And they found out what only thing they looked at was what people had an affinity for, and they explored it.
Yeah.
For example, the reason there is a measles outbreak in this country is because of Russia. Russia sent out the bots that said that vaccination causes autism. Russia did that. And the stay-at-home moms in these suburbs who don't have nothing to do all day began to form protests around vaccination. Now, here we are. You don't have to fire a weapon if you can weaponize a culture,
Yeah.
or if you can weaponize an idea. And the most ignorant people on the face of the earth are people who went to college.
I could get that.
They are the dumbest folk on earth. 'Cause all you have to do is put it in intellectual terms and put it in a book, and they believe it. Or all you have to do is get Dr. Whoever from Cambridge to say it, and people who went to college believe it. That's all it takes. So what am I saying to you? I am grateful that I did not go through college like everyone else did. It's funny because I was talking about that just once as well. I did not have a regimen. I had one class that was a GPA booster. You know, the electives? I had one, and that was karate. All the rest of my electives was a science course, a math course, a philosophy course, all over the place. Why? Because I wanted something to challenge me. I did not understand that I was being molded by a power greater than me. So that I would not be in such a regimented field until I could not see beyond that. And there were those who said you can't get a job because of it, but I'm saying, 99% of folks who get a job with a degree don't work in the field that they major in anyway. All I need is a degree to get a job. So it didn't matter to me. Now, then, well, if you get it, they're going to have to train you where they train everybody else, and I'm arrogant enough to believe that I can do it anyway. But I was a restaurant therapist and never worked with one until I read it in a book. Went through the interview and got the job. Nobody died on my watch from that. So, what am I saying? I'm saying to you that one of the most dangerous things on earth is education. And it's not because of the education itself, it's because who controls it.
Yeah. So when I hear things like this, automatically, I spend a lot of time like considering these types of things.
What do you tell?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would think everybody in this room probably spends a lot of time considering these types of things.
No, you
No? No? Okay. Not really? All right.
I like peace of mind.
Well-
I'm sorry.
Well, no, I totally agree, and well, here's where I'm going with this. When I think about that whole construct and this kind of sounding room with all of this noise, for me, the way I've been able to step out of that is kind of just doing my own thing, and finding it.
One more, back up. How do you step out of that?
Sure.
Is there a spiritual component?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
That's where I'm going. Yeah.
Okay.
So how I step out of it is it's not that I don't say that none of this stuff exists, right?
What's that?
All of the things that you were just describing and that are going on in the world, the stuff with the food, the stuff with the air and the water, and how people are basically manipulated, by whether it's their government or by themselves or by whatever, right? Or whatever. I don't say that those things don't exist. I think that, yeah, there's a very real place for that. And so the one question I spend my time with, and my efforts with, is asking myself, what is it that I can do to contribute in a meaningful way? And instead of just like coming up with something, it's really just sitting and being with just myself, right? And just being available to what the Creator wants to allow to emerge through me. And I spend a lot of time doing that. And it's so funny because the joke is I never know what Michael is going to be doing today, because I don't know what I'm going to be doing today, and it's just kind of following that prompting. And
may I say?
please,
The last statement that you made speaks volumes about where you were and where you are. Michael knew everything. Michael knew exactly what Michael will be doing and how he was going to quote unquote manipulate folks to get what Michael wanted. But Michael's at a place now where Michael understands, in order for balance to come, all I have to do is just be still. I don't have to make decisions about what I'm going to do tomorrow. I don't have to make decisions about how I'm going to move people from one place to the other. And when I put manipulation in quotes, it's simply because outreach is manipulation. That's all it is. It's manipulation.
it is.
When Jesus talked about the idea of the disciples or the apostles teaching others, it had nothing to do with joining the church. It had nothing to do with making sure they got educated. Keep in mind, not one person that Jesus called was a priest. Think about it. None of them were priests. Far from it. Keep in mind that the people he called were the people who were concerned about what was in their food. Euphemism, of course. People who were concerned about how they're going to make a living. People who were concerned about what they're going to do tomorrow.